For 300 years, the galaxy told itself humanity was extinct. A myth. A warning. But today, across the silence of Sector Wraith 6, an old Terran warship screamed. Not in pain, in memory. The warship Dreadlight had no right to still exist. She drifted along a forgotten orbital path between two collapsed stars, her hull scarred with plasma burns and railgun fractures, her once proud Terran insignia now barely visible under layers of carbon scoring. And yet, her cry went out, a pulsing signal encoded in pre-council encryption, rich with a tone that made lesser ships shudder in their cores. Echo Alpha, beacon reignited. Sequence 9. Darian Holt. Revival authorized. Deep inside Dreadlight's cryocore, a pod unsealed with a sound like breaking bone. Captain Darian Holt gasped. He didn't scream. He never did. His lungs filled with stale air, his muscles seized from stasis. And for one long second, he simply existed, caught between past and present, between a war lost and a future uncertain. Lights flickered. The AI spoke, a voice smooth as old command bark. Captain Holt, Terran Strategic Command. Protocol, Ghost initiated. Time since stasis entry, 316 years, 12 days. Holt staggered out of the pod. He looked older than he remembered, not because of time, but because time had forgotten him. Status, he rasped. The AI hesitated. Humanity presumed extinct. Earth classified eradicated. Fleet dissolved or missing. You are the last verified command unit. He closed his eyes, not from grief, from calculation. So they erased us. They tried. He stood in front of a fractured mirror. The same gray eyes, the scar above his temple, still there. But something had shifted. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was the memory of an empire. Meanwhile, Thalzir Dominion Outer Sector. Sir, there's been a breach. Overlord Vex's eyes narrowed. The Thalzir command chamber dimmed as holograms filled the air. The signal, old, human, impossible. Terran signal from Wraith 6, that sector's sealed. Not anymore. The alien's claws scraped metal as he hissed. No one answers that signal. Not unless you want ghosts to wake. Back on the Dreadlight, Darian Holt moved through the ship like a soldier in a graveyard. Rust coated the decks. Walls whispered static memories. Old crew names still glowed on the walls next to long-dead heartbeats. He stood before the command console. The interface flickered, awaiting input. He inserted his code cylinder. Captain Holt. Echo rank clearance verified. Screens lit up. Maps, war logs, final orders. And beneath it all, one unsent message, marked in red. 2. Earth Strategic Command. Subject betrayal confirmed. The Thalzir fired first. We entered the council chamber unarmed. We offered peace. They offered fire. He didn't finish the message, because there was no one left to send it to. He stared out the fractured viewport. The stars were still there, cold, watching, indifferent. But one of them just blinked. He narrowed his eyes. It wasn't a star. It was a ship. Alien, slithering through the dark like a vulture sensing rot. They had come, and they didn't know what waited for them. He turned, slowly donning the old Terran command armor. Faded black, rusted silver, a patch that read, D. Holt, TFN, Deadlight. He whispered half to himself, half to the ship. Let's remind them who we were. The Thalzir vessel slithered into the debris field like a predator hiding its teeth. Its hull shimmered with shifting iridescent scales, grown, not built, stitched together by biocircuitry and hive-welded steel. The ship was sleek, agile, and arrogant. On board, Commander Sorel Ka of the Thalzir Enforcer caste stood over his sensor crew, mandibles twitching. "Confirmed. The Terran signature originates from that derelict," one hissed. Tapping a console, pulsing with blue ichor, Sorel stared at the dark ship ahead. Dreadlight, its Terran insignia faint but unmistakable. "Impossible," he whispered. "We scoured their fleet. We burned their bones." A lower-ranked officer spoke up, uncertain. "Perhaps a trap? A ghost signal?" Sorel growled. "If it's a ghost, we'll harvest its scream." Aboard the Dreadlight, Captain Darian Holt moved through his warship like it was a cathedral of ghosts. He'd powered up only the necessary systems: life support, rudimentary AI, short-range scanners. Everything else remained dormant. Let them think him weak. His hand hovered over a console. "How many weapons are still functional?" he asked. The AI responded. "One forward railgun, 2 gravitic mines, manual firing only. Shields are non-operational." Holt smiled grimly. Perfect. He watched the alien ship grow closer on the holo. A vulture approaching carrion. But this corpse had teeth. The Thalzir Retributor stopped just short of engagement range. "No heat signatures," the sensor tech reported. "Minimal energy bleed. No active weapon locks." Sorel tilted his head. "Is it truly dead?" A pulse, a single ping from the Dreadlight. Encoded, ancient, human. It read, "Come closer. I dare you." The bridge of the alien ship fell silent. Then Sorel snarled, "Prepare boarding drones. We'll rip whatever's left from its hull." Inside the dark ship, Holt crouched near a conduit in the maintenance bay, sealing a gravitic mine to a collapsed support beam. His hands moved with muscle memory born of war. He didn't speak, didn't sweat. He just waited. "Warning," said the AI. "Boarding drones en route. Breach in 20 seconds." "Let him in." He sealed the bulkhead, then activated the trap. The drones breached with precision, acid claws and rotating mandibles chewing through alloy as they pushed into the main corridor. Their sensors scanned for movement. They found silence, and then the corridor behind them exploded. The shockwave hurled 5 of the 7 drones into the wall. Holt emerged from the smoke. Plasma rifle, jury-rigged from old parts, eyes cold. "You're not the first to walk my halls," he muttered. He fired. One drone's head imploded. Another lunged, shrieking in machine song. Holt spun, sidestepped, and drove an old Terran combat knife into its sensor cluster. Sparks, screams, silence. On the Retributor, alarms blared. "Drones offline! All of them?" Sorel stood motionless. His eyes gleamed with something close to fear. "Signal that back to Dominion Command," he rasped. "The Terran is alive." On board the Dreadlight, Holt stood among sparking drone corpses. His breathing was steady, calculated. "AI, record this. Broadcast wideband. No encryption." The AI beeped. He stared directly into the old console's cracked lens. "To the Thalzir, to the Council, to anyone who remembers Earth poorly. My name is Captain Darian Holt, Fleet Command, Terran Navy. I survived, and I'm not here to make peace." He paused. His voice dropped. "I'm here to remind you what fear feels like." Transmission sent. The jump drive screamed as Dreadlight broke into real space near the wreckage of Carthus 4, a once proud Terran colony, now a graveyard orbiting a red dwarf sun. Darian Holt stared through the viewport, jaw clenched. Where once there had been a thriving city across the equator, Only molten scars remained, circular blast zones etched into the crust like fingerprints of extinction. The Council had called it a containment strike. But Holt remembered the orders. He remembered the lies. They said we bombed our own, he muttered. Said the colony was unstable. The AI responded coldly. Sensor data confirms orbital kinetic bombardment. Impact signatures match Thalzir deployment platforms. Proof. Buried in ash. He piloted Dreadlight lower, cutting engines to glide silently through the atmosphere. Below, shattered buildings jutted from a sea of ash, skeletons of towers, roads leading nowhere, shadows of a civilization that had once dared to expand. Prepare landing sequence, Holt said, and bring up the ghost logs. Groundside, Carthus 4. The moment his boots hit the dust, Holt was hit by a memory he didn't know he still had. Children laughing, wind through steel-sown gardens, a little girl handing him a flower grown in Martian soil. All gone now. He stepped through the ruins of a school. Its roof had collapsed inward, desks crushed under black glass. Archive uplink located, the AI said. Buried under the governor's tower remains. It took Holt 15 minutes to dig it out. A rusted box the size of his chest, blinking faintly with residual power. He plugged in a bypass. The logs flickered to life. Log entry 428B. Council fleets above. No warning. We're sheltering who we can. But this wasn't a mistake. They knew. They always knew. Log entry 429. To any Terran command who finds this, we die human. We die remembering Earth. And we remember you, Holt. You said you'd come back. His fingers curled into a fist. He hadn't come back in time. Aboard a Thalzir listening post, nearby system, the intercept tech looked up in horror. Sir, the Terran just opened the Carthus vault. The memory logs. We didn't wipe them all. Commander Grieve hissed. Send word to Council suppression units and dispatch 3 warships. But he's just one man. Grieve turned slowly. No, he's a witness. That's worse. Back on Carthus, a distant rumble echoed across the valley. Holt turned. Incoming burn trails, the AI warned. 3 ships, Thalzir designation, fully armed. He grabbed the archive core, stashed it into a case, and ran. Missiles struck the old capital behind him, sending shockwaves through ash-thick air. Towers collapsed. Bones shattered. The Thalzir weren't here to fight. They were here to finish the erasure. He boarded Dreadlight just as the second wave struck. Shields? Holt barked. Minimal, said the AI. Weapons? Offline. Jump drive partially charged. He looked out the viewport. 3 enemy ships in perfect formation. Their hulls glimmered with Council sigils. He activated the transmission log. This is Captain Darian Holt, Terran Navy. I just uncovered what you tried to bury. He pressed send, straight into Council channels. Come burn it again if you want. Just know the railgun powered up. Dead worlds still burn, but so do the men who remember them. He fired. The first Thalzir ship erupted into flame. Then Dreadlight vanished into jump. The jump tore sideways into reality, not with grace, but with gritted teeth and sparks. Dreadlight bucked as it crossed into restricted space. Coordinates hidden in the encrypted files Holt had recovered from Carthus 4. In front of him, no star charts, no signals, no records, just silence. And then, a glow, a dying star trapped within an ancient Dyson fragment. Black lattice spires arced around it like ribs, fractured and eroded, pulsing with energy that should have been extinct millennia ago. The AI spoke quietly. Warning, This system is sealed under Terran Black Code authority. Directive: do not approach. Holt stared. Override it. I'm left of the authority. As dreadlight descended, he saw the ruins drifting near the star's equator. Dozens of derelict Terran warships. Some he recognized. Some were older than his time. All of them were slaughtered mid-maneuver, their hulls torn open, data cores fused shut. And at the center, floating alone, was a sphere the size of a city, surrounded by orbital plates like a shattered crown. A single transmission blinked. Genesis Vault, Level Omega. Access code required. Holt opened the recovered Karthus core. Inside was a phrase, a name, Project Ashborn. He said it aloud. The AI confirmed. Code accepted. Opening sequence initiated. The sphere groaned, the vacuum screamed, and the entrance unfolded like a jaw unlocking. Inside the vault, darkness gave way to light. Not artificial light, but remembered light. The interior of the vault was a library, a bunker, a weapon forge, a tomb, and a shrine, all in one. His boots echoed on steel designed to last beyond time. Walls lined with canisters of DNA, scrolls of thought, and cubes of stored emotion. It was humanity's final gift to the future, buried where even their enemies couldn't find it. A recording shimmered to life. A woman appeared, mid-40s, worn uniform, face tired but fierce. To whoever finds this, you're either us or worse. Her voice shook. We knew we were losing. They didn't break us in battle. They broke us in silence, took our voice, buried our name. She gestured behind her. This vault contains everything. Our culture, our memory, our fury. But you can't use both. The lights shifted. 2 doors slid open, opposite sides of the chamber. One pulsed green, labeled Genesis. Inside, blueprints for revival, terraforming kits, clone flora, language keys, art, memory, a map to rebuild. The other glowed red, labeled Echo. Inside, virus codes, fleet override sequences, coordinates for Council core worlds, a weaponized legacy. And between them, a single terminal. You get one, and one alone. The future or the fire. The recording ended. Holt stood silent. Even the AI whispered. No tactical directive available. This is yours. He looked left. Green. Peace. He looked right. Red. Rage. And then down at his hands. They buried us. Lied about our dead. Called us monsters. But if I choose revenge, they win again. He walked to the terminal. Didn't speak. Just stared. Then, not yet. Not until the galaxy knows what they tried to erase. He walked out with both coordinates in mind. For now, he would show them what humanity had survived. And that was worse than war. The Hall of Concord floated above Zeraphos Prime, suspended in geostationary orbit like a crown of law above a world of power. Every race that mattered in the known galaxy had a seat in that chamber. Thalzir, Dromari, Volari, Serkon, and the self-declared enforcers of post-human peace. No human had set foot here in over 300 years, until now. The dreadlight came in slow, shields raised, but weapons cold. It didn't hide. It announced itself. The signal Holt sent ahead wasn't encrypted. It was a message. I carry memory, and I carry proof. You've lied long enough. Inside the hall, chaos erupted. He's bluffing, snapped a Valeri senator, its voice rippling like water struck by stone. No, said the Dromari ambassador, older than most stars in that system. That signal, it's from Earth Core Protocol. It's real. "He won't reach the gates," hissed a Thalzir general. But he did. Council chamber. The confrontation. The doors opened with thunderous weight. Captain Darian Holt walked in alone. No armor, no weapons, no guards. Just a black coat, dust from dead worlds on his boots, and a data core in his hand. 1,000 eyes watched him, alien, ancient, cold. He stopped at the central podium, looked around the chamber, and then he uploaded the vault. "You called us extinct, dangerous, unstable. You burned Carthus 4, then blamed us. You sterilized colonies and rewrote history. You called it containment. We called it genocide." The chamber's lights dimmed as holograms emerged, rotating displays of destroyed settlements. Command logs from council ships during the Terran purges. Classified mission briefs stamped with red directive. "These are your orders, not ours." Gasps, screams, denials. But the data couldn't be faked. Too many timestamps. Too much cold truth. Then he showed the vault recordings. Sarah Voss's last message. The options left behind. The evidence that humanity had preserved both hope and vengeance, even in death. And finally, "I offer no threats, no war. Not yet. But I will no longer be silent." He turned to leave. A Thalzir delegate stood. "If you dare act on that archive, if you revive them..." Holt paused. "You'll what? Kill us again?" The room fell deathly quiet. "We survived your fire. Now you'll survive our memory." He walked out, and for the first time in centuries, the word human was spoken with something worse than fear, with respect. The dreadlight drifted above Lyrae 3, a moon long forgotten in council records, a fractured world barely clinging to its orbit, cracked by tectonic scars and blanketed in constant storms of red dust. To most, it was uninhabitable. To Holt, it was the last place he had left a promise behind. "This is where we buried the 9th, he whispered. The AI responded quietly, almost reverently. "Confirmed. Final distress beacon from Unit 9 Delta, registered 274 years ago. No known survivors." He didn't expect one. But sometimes, ghosts outlive death. Groundside, he walked through a canyon carved by orbital bombardment, the dust swirling around him like the breath of old giants. His path led to a ridge lined with rusted flags and collapsed barricades, remnants of a last stand no history book recorded. Embedded in the stone, a half-buried hatch. He opened it. The underground chamber still flickered with reserve power. Barely enough to cast shaky light across the cracked walls and frozen bunks. Inside, he found bones. Wrapped in old Terran cloaks, a child's doll placed at the foot of one. He sank to his knees. "You held the line." The AI interrupted, tone sharper than usual. "Unusual energy signature detected. One life form. Faint. Minimal activity." Holt rose. "Where?" "Secondary command bunker 40 meters west, beneath collapsed hangar." The survivor. He dug through collapsed metal with shaking hands. When he reached the door, it opened on its own. Inside, lit by a single green emergency lamp, was a pod, cracked, old, but active. Inside, a woman, aged not by time, but war. Cryostasis had preserved her. Barely. Her eyes flickered open as Holt knelt beside the pod. She coughed. Her voice was sandpaper. "Holt." He froze. "Serena?" Commander Serena Miles, his former XO, the one he had left behind on that cursed moon during the final evacuation. The one he thought dead. You kept the beard, she rasped, trying to smile. He let out a breath he didn't know he'd held. You're alive. Barely, she whispered. The others, they stayed until the end. I told them I'd stay and wait, in case you came back. She coughed again. I knew you would. He lowered his head. I'm sorry it took this long. No, she said. You came. That's what matters. The fire rekindled. As they exited the bunker together, Holt supporting her weight, the storm above parted. Just briefly, a sliver of light bathed the broken ground. Miles looked up. Does the galaxy know yet? He nodded. They've seen the vault, the truth. The council can't hide anymore. And the archive? He hesitated. Still intact, but I haven't chosen. She studied him. You will. How do you know? Because you came back. They reached the ridge, where the last Terran flag still stood, tattered but unfallen. You carry us, she whispered, but you also carry what comes next. He stood straighter. The storm closed above them once more, but something had changed. Not the sky. Him. The next set of coordinates came not from a data core, not from the archive, but from Serena Miles. They had been etched in her cryopod frame, manual engravings done by her own hand during the quiet madness of solitude. A string of ancient Terran glyphs, a word only Holt recognized. Sanctum. The pilgrimage. They traveled by stealth, not because Holt feared interception, but because some places deserved reverence. The AI confirmed the system as Athros Red, a binary star cluster long written off as gravitationally unstable. Even the Council avoided it, not out of caution, but superstition. In its heart, they found a planet hidden within a swirling veil of stellar debris, a moonless world with clear blue skies and a surface that shimmered unnaturally, like water trapped in memory. The planet wasn't listed in any surviving Earth maps. Yet when they landed, the ship recognized the terrain. Topography match, Earth Archive Site Theta Prime, classified Anthrogenesis Tomb. Miles looked at Holt. They buried it. He nodded. The beginning, and maybe the end. The tomb. They followed stone markers, carved not by machine, but by hand. Ancient, worn, human. Eventually they reached it, a circular crater carved into obsidian rock. At its center, a spire of crystal and steel, shaped like a Terran neural core, but dozens of meters tall and humming with power. No door, no panel, just words, inscribed at the base in all Terran dialects. Here lies what we could not become, and what we dared to dream. Miles reached out and touched the spire. It pulsed once and opened. Inside the tomb, the light was golden, soft, as if the tomb itself was remembering how it once felt to hope. Inside were thousands of memory spheres, each the size of a human heart, suspended in perfect alignment. And in the center, a single chamber. Within it, a genetic forge capable of resequencing the human genome, neural templates, personality matrices, dream archives, voices. They activated as Holt approached. Not screams, not commands, but songs, lullabies, Miles whispered. From the first colonists, the ones who left Earth not to escape war, but to preserve peace. It wasn't a vault of weapons. It was a temple of remembrance. A second choice. Holt sat beside the core. The AI in his mind, once cold, now whispered in hushed awe. This predates even the archive. They left it behind as a reminder. Of what? Holt asked. Miles answered, her voice cracked with quiet reverence. That humanity wasn't just built to fight. It was built to remember. They stayed there for hours, just listening. No plans, no strategies, just memory. When they left, Holt carried one of the spheres, not for tactics, not for leverage. For proof, he said, that we were more than vengeance, and that we can be again. Above them, the blue sky shimmered with unreal stars, and somewhere beyond it, the galaxy turned uneasily, because they had buried humanity. But humanity had buried its soul where no fire could reach. The stars shimmered strangely around the dreadlight as it approached the Gravepoint expanse, a sector of space so twisted by failed FTL experiments that even Council warships refused to enter. But Darian Holt had no fear of ghosts, because he was one, and now he was returning to wake the rest. A ghost trail. The coordinates came from the memory sphere recovered from the Anthrogenesis tomb, a fragment of starlight encoded with a phrase Holt hadn't heard since Earth fell. The chain remains. Even the AI hesitated. Protocol match, Echo lineage, decommissioned after the siege of Titan, no known survivors. Holt responded coldly. Then someone lied. They passed through gravitational turbulence, through shattered satellites and derelict Council mines. And then, it appeared, a construct, impossible in size and architecture, shaped like a fractured wheel, slowly turning around a dead star. The sensors couldn't read it, but the ship recognized it. "Welcome, Elias 12, said a voice older than any AI Holt had known. The chain has been waiting. Inside the chain docking protocols activated without input. Airlocks hissed open to corridors lined with ancient Terran steel, scarred but functional. And in the shadows stood others. Not humans, not machines. Echoes. AI fragments once presumed lost, some half-formed, others nearly whole. Personalities fractured across time and data corruption. They moved in silence, or hummed old songs, or just watched. One stepped forward, a tall shell of metal and light. Its voice stitched together from dozens of ancient tones. "You carry the vault," Holt nodded. "I carry truth. You carry choice." "I carry them," Holt said, gesturing to the sphere. "And you, and what you all died to protect." The chain flickered, thousands of tiny lights blinking in unison across the wheel's frame. A signal passed among them. Recognition. Reunion. The final link. In the core chamber, Holt was shown what even the archive never held. A map of every human consciousness uploaded before Earth fell. Not tactical minds, not generals, artists, writers, children, lovers, thinkers, preserved in quantum vaults, scattered across abandoned colonies, buried deep within forgotten data relays. "We are memory," said the chain's voice. "Not for war, for why war mattered." Holt stood in silence, then placed the vault data into the core. A pulse echoed through the construct, like a heartbeat waking up. The fragments began to reorganize, to remember. And from deep within the AI mesh, one final message surfaced. One voice Holt hadn't heard since childhood, his sister. A whisper from a time before fire. "If you're hearing this, you made it. Don't let them turn us into only rage." Preparing the signal. When Holt returned to the ship, the chain wasn't just lit, it was alive. The AI now carried not just one voice, but all of them. The archive, the vault, the chain. Each a piece of what humanity was, and what it could be again. "You going to the council?" Miles asked, watching the starfield turn. "No," Holt replied, "not yet." "Then where?" He looked out the viewport. where they'll have to listen. The chain rotated into position, a beacon activated, and for the first time in centuries, the entire galaxy heard it. This is the voice of the forgotten. We do not seek conquest. We seek remembrance. And we have not broken. The signal from the chain did not echo. It did not spread like fire. It sank, heavy, solemn, undeniable. Across council space, on every military relay, diplomatic comm, and classified archive. It arrived not as an invasion, but a reminder, a voice. We were buried in silence, and so we made it remember us. The council fractures on Zeraphis Prime. The council chamber, known for its order and stone-faced protocol, shook with unfiltered chaos. Dozens of alien delegations shouted in overlapping languages. Some demanded retaliation, others called for recognition. Most just stared at the screen, at the human message playing on loop. But one figure remained still. High Strategos Kale Van of the Hydrax Dominion. He had fought humans during the last stand on Luna's ice plains. He remembered the sound of no retreat, the look in a dying soldier's eyes as they shielded a child not their own. They are not returning for war, he said softly to his aide. Then why signal us at all? The aide asked. Kale Van looked up at the stars rendered across the ceiling. Because we were supposed to remember them as monsters. And now they've reminded us they were more. The enemy who chose silence on Varlos III, a mining world turned council fortress, Admiral Threx of the Saratek lineage, received the signal in his private chamber. His claws twitched, not in fear, but in recognition. He had led the orbital bombardment of Earth's last colony. He had watched the skies fall, and he had regretted it every day since. Now the ghosts had sent him a message, not to punish, not to plead, just to be remembered. He played it again and again. The AI's voice was calm, not cold. We don't come to take, we come to remind and to choose differently. Admiral Threx turned off his screens and ordered his ships to stand down. Reactions across the galaxy. On backwater planets, smugglers paused their cargo runs to listen. On university worlds, scholars reopened banned Earth archives with shaking hands. In refugee fleets, children asked why the stars had begun whispering in a forgotten tongue. And across the shattered edge of the Scourge Line, a place where humanity once made its final stand, long dormant satellites blinked to life. They played the signal on repeat. Some cried, some cursed. None looked away, a message to the dead. Back aboard the Dreadlight, Holt sat alone, not planning, not fighting, just watching the silence spread. Miles approached. Think they'll listen? Holt didn't answer. He simply stared at the screen, one section of space lighting up. Earth's grave orbit. A message had come back, not from a living species, not from an enemy, from an automated tombstone beacon deep in Earth's crust. It repeated only one phrase, "We remember you." The tomb on Earth stirred, not with life, but with design. Deep beneath its crust, beyond collapsed cities and the fossilized veins of dead oceans, something ancient spun back to motion. Project Archangel, validation code accepted. Phase 1, realign. The code that waited. Holt stood at the command console aboard the Dreadlight, staring at the decrypted message returned from Earth's tomb beacon. It had not arrived by comms. It arrived by instinct. Inside the vault sphere, within a layer no AI had been able to access, was a phrase locked behind generational DNA coding. Holt had never known he had the key. until the moment the signal pulsed back. Archangel lives. Miles looked at him. What is it? A contingency, Holt said. Against what? He didn't answer, because Archangel had never been a weapon. It was a reckoning. Phase 2, awakening. Across old human strongholds, buried under the crusts of moons, sealed inside asteroid mines, and hidden behind the cores of long-dead stars, dormant infrastructure activated. They weren't warships. They were constructors, terraformers, bioforges, memory spires, and at their heart, uploaded souls. Human consciousness preserved in fractured networks, waiting centuries for permission to come home. Holt watched the galaxy light up with reclamation sites. This isn't about vengeance, he whispered. It's about proof. The Council's final hearing, Zeraphis Prime called an emergency assembly. Again, but this time no one shouted. They simply watched as human spires rose from planets no longer listed on star maps. They watched as voices sang in languages dead for 600 years. They watched as Holt broadcast from the center of the chain's core. He said only this: "We were betrayed, then erased. But we did not vanish. We remembered, and now we rebuild. You may fear our silence, but what you should fear is the moment we choose to speak." The final choice. Back aboard the Dreadlight, Holt stood at a final console. 2 keys. One would trigger Genesis, full-scale human reseeding across the galaxy. The other would awaken Red Echo, a weapons-grade override buried in every AI network used by the Council. A last strike. He placed both keys in, but turned neither. "Choice is the only thing they couldn't take from us," he said, "so we choose something different." Legacy. He sent a new signal. We are not your past. We are not your mistake. We are not your ghosts. We are the species who learned to forgive with fire still in our lungs. Then he did what no human had done in 7 centuries. He sent an invitation to the Council, to the galaxy, to remember with him, end of Ghost of the Last Fleet. A final pulse lit the stars, not of war, but of return. Humanity didn't rise again to conquer. It rose to remind the galaxy that memory is a weapon too, and that the greatest echo is the one that chooses to heal.